We're going to begin this hour with an exonerated member of the so-called Central Park Five. We all remember this case, who was expected to join the New York City Council after his first run for office in 1989. Yusef Salaam was 15 years old when he was wrongly convicted, along with 4 Black and Latino teenage boys, of the brutal rape of a jogger in New York City's Central Park. In 2002, their convictions were overturned by DNA evidence, and they became known as the Exonerated Five. Salaam served nearly 7 years behind bars for a crime he did not commit, and now 2 decades after he was exonerated, Mr. Salaam is declaring victory in his run for New York City Council while he waits for the primary race to be officially called. He's a criminal justice reform advocate and works with the Innocence Project. We're happy to say that right now Yusef Salaam joins us at the table. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yusef Salaam.
My pleasure.
The official final count is today. We will know certainly by the end of the day, but it looks very good for you.
Oh, yes.
And you say, oh, yes, oh, yes. You said, what has happened in this campaign has restored your faith in knowing that you were born for this. And this is a line that got me. You said, every single thing that happens to you happens for you.
Yes.
What do you mean by that, considering what you have been through?
You know, it's the reality of being able to look back and say, man, that 2x4 that hit me allowed me to develop peripheral vision. Had it not happened, I wouldn't have been aware that the rug could be pulled out from underneath your feet, that a lot of us are waiting to live life. And God gave us permission to live life. And a lot of us are kind of playing this double dutch of when do I jump in, when do I jump in? The time to jump in is now. And so when things happen to you, the best thing that you can do is just say to yourself, this is for me. You know, this is developing me. This is altering me. Like right now, I get the opportunity to reflect light in the most darkest places around the world.
But had you always thought about getting into politics? When did this happen for you?
You know, early on, I read the story of Joseph in the Bible and the Quran. And finding out that this individual was accused of a crime he didn't commit, the crime was rape, and that he went to prison, and he came out and became the greatest statesman in Egypt. I was inspired by that story because I was named after that prophet. And so, of course, for me, I was like, at 15 and 16, is it possible? But then it, you know, it kind of was swept under the rug until 2002, when we were found innocent.
But there are still people sitting here today, Yusef, you know this, who don't believe that you should be out of prison, that, you know, the words are, well, they certainly must have done something that night.
Right.
There's still people who believe that about you.
You know, you'll always get judged by the color of your skin and not the content of your character. And unfortunately, in the Black and brown community, when they look at us and they say to us, you're guilty until you're proven innocent. I mean, the law says innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
But in our communities, you're seen as guilty, and the system is just going to play itself out, and you'll be able to get all the time that you're supposed to get. And in our case, it was like, we didn't do it.
Right.
And not only didn't we do it, because they got stuck with the lie, there was a young woman who could have been alive today. If the system said, you know what, something is wrong with this case. Let's take a step back and reevaluate everything. But they got stuck with us being the culprits, allowing for the real criminal to ultimately murder one of his last victims.
And speaking of the system and being wrongfully imprisoned, for most people, going through a dark time like that, they will come out on the other end and say, you know what, I'm through with the system. I'm through with the police officers. I'm through with the NYPD. That's not the approach you're taking. You talk about that 2x4 hitting you and allowing you to have that peripheral vision. What has your vision shown you in what you want to see in police officers nowadays?
I got to tell you, I've had so many profoundly impactful experiences with police officers and people who wanted.
You're talking positive experiences.
Positive, very, very positive. Righteous actors is what I call them. I met a young girl, she was 13 years old, and she stood up in an audience and said, you know, Yusef, I want to become a cop. What advice can you give me? I'm a cadet. I want to become a cop. And my first thought was to tell her to run. But then I realized that I wasn't talking to a cop. I was talking to a future guardian of society. And I got the opportunity to give her my best advice, telling her that on the side of police cars throughout the nation, you see the words to serve and protect, that in New York City, they go a step above and beyond, adding the words courtesy, professionalism, and respect. And so for me, it's like, if this person who has found their purpose can understand that she is a guardian for society.
Right.
That's a different type. I want that type of person
Right.
to guard me. I want that person to be out there saying, you know what, I am to protect and serve all.
Right. Yeah.
It's important.
Mr. Salaam, to an issue that New Yorkers are dealing with, but people in cities across the country are dealing with, and that's gun violence. Here in this city, gun violence has declined somewhat. It's going in the right direction, at least the numbers are. However, the age of the shooter and the victim seems to be lower than ever. What do you make of that?
What I make of that is that we have been given such a devaluation of life that if I can't even see the humanity in you, I was raised as a child to see every single man as if he could be my father, my brother, or my son. And every single woman as if she could be my mother, my sister, or my daughter. Automatically, that level sets the type of respect that I am supposed to give and therefore be given. And the fact of the matter is that when we look at what's going on in our communities, when you have poverty and abject poverty, if you will, you have this sense of hopelessness, the fact that people are seeing things like George Floyd get murdered or Breonna Taylor get murdered. You know, in their minds is this idea that tomorrow is not promised. And so therefore, I have to live as recklessly as possible. And in that recklessness, young people are exposed to everything.
Yeah.
My children, I have children that are as young as 7 years old. They see everything. You can't shield them from the world. And in their response, they think that, oh, this is just, you know, to take another person's life is not. It doesn't mean
not a
as
big
much.
deal, yeah.
Tomorrow
It's a
not promised,
huge
yeah.
deal.
Yeah, they don't see that.
It alters everything. That ripples into the future of
course.
how we are as a people.
Yeah. Which is why we have to continue to lead the way.
Absolutely. You know, my website that I lay out my whole platform really kind of tries to give up people the perspective of what it's all about.
And what's the website?
HarlemForYusef.com.
There it is right there. Yusef Salaam, thank you so much. We appreciate you for joining us.